Diaries podcast. I'm your host, Grace Costa, a commercial photographer of over 2 decades, a photo-based artist and a photography mentor. This podcast opens up a secret diary about the world of the photography industry. We'll bring you inspiring interviews with industry professionals, as well as stories and tips to help you propel through your photography journey, whether you're just starting out or a seasoned pro. Thanks for joining me today. Now let's open the latest diary. Hello and welcome to the Photo Diaries podcast. I'm your host, Grace Costa. Thanks for being here today. We have special guests with us in the studio talking to us about family portrait photography. We've got Katie Collenberg and Jeremy Barnes from, did I pronounce that right?
Close.
Jeremy Burns.
Yay.
From Heartstory Family Portrait Photography, based in the nation's capital in Australia. So we're thrilled to have them here today. We are going to talk about running a successful family portrait photography business, and I hope you'll all get something out of this podcast episode. So let's welcome Katie and Jeremy. Hello, guys.
Hi, Grace.
Hi, guys.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
I'm really thrilled because I know you guys will share so much value about running a successful business. You've been running the Heartstory business since 2009. You serve so many of Canberra's families and wedding couples as well. Katie, can you introduce what your business does and who you love to serve?
Sure. Well, we photograph families. That's our jam. We don't do so many weddings anymore. We did for a while, and then we slowly sort of cut them down and phase them out so we could really focus on what we love the most, which is photographing families. And by families, we mean all different types of families, from, first-time parents having their very first baby, newborn portraits in the studio or at their home, all the way through to, elderly couples. Jeremy just recently photographed an elderly couple in the studio, and not the rest of their family, just them. So family can mean lots of different things, including family pets, the shoots on people's properties at their homes, extended family shoots, where there might be 3 or 4 generations of family all attending at once to celebrate a special event, or just because they can get together from all over Australia. And also just your sort of typical family shoots too, which is what most people expect, which is, mum and dad and kids in the, playing in the fields or the parks or by the lakes. And we also have our studios. So there are lots of different types of shoots that go on there too.
Okay, we'll find out more about that after introducing Jeremy. So Jeremy, you are one of the principal photographers as well. What else do you do in your role?
Well, I do most of the sales now, or the purchasing appointments. Up until Katie fell pregnant with Augie, she was managing all of them, but I took that over once he came along. So I'm in the studio more often than not in terms of the day-to-day running of the business. So I'm doing sales, I'm doing most of the production still, though we're trying to introduce Mel, who works for us, into the printing side of it. So yeah, I'm mostly working in that image management aspect of our business, while Katie looks after the, the higher tier management of our business, although she's also passing some of that along to Mel. So I think there's been a lot of change this year, and our roles are changing.
Yes.
I wouldn't say significantly, but they're definitely on the change this year.
And they're changing because initially it was the two of you, both photographing families together, both doing the production side, both running the back end. But now your business has grown exponentially that you need to, bring on some staff, which you have done recently. Tell us about how you came to that decision to divide up different roles in the business so that you can find your own new role in running your show.
Because I guess it goes all the way back to 2009, and Jeremy joined the business in 2014. So the first few years was just me, and I didn't have a studio space. I just photographed, out and about around Canberra, and delivered online galleries. And then, as I settled into doing that, then I started to change the way I was doing things, and I set up a home office so that clients could come to me. And then after Jeremy and I met and we merged our businesses, then we decided to have our first home studio. And that was kind of the kickoff of the real growth. Obviously, there's growth, in a business, potentially growth every single year, but it really grew a lot between me running it by myself and then him coming on board, because obviously then we had to generate enough income for two people, not just one.
Yes.
And then from there, we grew it more and realised that we were just working too hard and too much. And so we took on an admin staff, and that was our first person that we hired. So that was over 5 years ago now, coming up to 6 years. And then from there, we've continued to grow it. And I guess the reason that we've divided up roles is because it is just a lot easier to focus on what you need to do if you're not doing everything. When you have to stretch yourself across all aspects of the business, it's a lot harder to get focus. If you have set roles that you're responsible for, you can just settle into those. You can really work on making them perfect, making them work really well. And it's kind of you have ownership over that part of the business. So as we've grown again now from late last year to now, we now have a team of 6. And obviously the more people you have, the more important it is that everybody has their own space, their own ownership over what they do. And so that's made our roles become a bit more specific than what they were before.
And does everyone work in the studio in the one location, or can they work remotely and just come for shoots or do their admin from home, whatever their role is? Can they do that from their own location, or they have to be based in your studio? We
try and keep everyone in the studio for the team, the sake of the team.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not always the case. We're actually everybody who works for us has different demands on their life outside of work. And our aim is to provide flexible working arrangements. And I think COVID really taught everyone a lot about that. So sometimes our studio manager works from home. There are some things that's impossible to do from home. Obviously, sales appointments need to be done in the studio because that's our space, and shoots. But also people come to us to pick their orders up. So there are a lot of things that do need to be done in the space, as well as printing and packaging. Where everything's actually set up, you have to be there to do that. But there is also scope to work from home when you're doing admin. I work from home almost all the time.
Nice one.
I find it just quite hard to concentrate on some of those more strategic tasks when I'm in a really noisy space with lots of people moving around and talking. I find it distracting. So when I'm working on marketing and the management of the business, I prefer to be at home. And I just come in on certain days when I've got shoots booked and we have team meetings and that sort of thing.
Well, I'd love to know right from the beginning, gaining clients for your family portrait business, how did you start attracting new clients, like right from the beginning? And then how are you attracting clients now?
At the start, I didn't know what marketing was. And I think that's how a lot of us start. We're like, cool, I'm going to make a website. I'm going to, get a logo. I'm going to put my photos out there, and then people are just going to be bashing down the doors to do a shoot.
To be fair, that was working for you before you met me. Like your reach was 100% organic, right? So before I came on board and the necessity to grow Heartstory into something that could sustain 2 people working in a business, like a full-time job for each of us, you had to transition from I'm getting enough clients where it's paying me a decent salary to then all of a sudden this added pressure of, wow, Heartstory is not big enough to bring on Jeremy. So just a brief history on Katie and I meeting. I had my business in Sydney. Katie obviously had hers in Canberra, and when we met, sparks flew, and one of us had to make the decision to move. And because Katie had a young child, it was easier for me to move from Sydney because I was floundering in a city where I didn't have any family anyway. So I moved here, and that I couldn't bring all of my clients here because they're in Sydney. So Heartstory had to grow. So that's when we kind of really had to start thinking quick on our feet to grow the business. And that's where we needed to transition from that perfect little business that Katie had, where she was getting organic flow of clients, into a business that couldn't just rely on that.
That said, though, I was doing some marketing by that point, but it still wasn't enough. And let's also remember that 2009 was very different to 2023. There's been so much change in the way that people, the way that businesses and brands sell and market and show up. Social media was not that big in 2009. We didn't have, I think I barely used Instagram back then. And if I did use it, it was just for personal photos. I certainly wasn't selling on there. So, the way that we show up now is different. And I do remember when I first looked into getting some help with my business way back, I don't know what year it might have been, 2010, 11, maybe 12. I was told by a few people at the time that you should have 5 different marketing pipelines going at any one time. But now, with all the experience I have, I would advise people to have 10 to 15. I don't think 5's enough, unless one of those 5 might be generating, 80% of your work, then maybe, if you're lucky enough to have that. But it's a hard thing to find. And I think these days, just because there is, we live in this very busy society with so many things going on all the time, that our visibility to potential clients is more limited than it used to be. And it's not just because there are, X number of photography businesses, because there have always been lots of photography businesses. It's more to do with the visibility in a very busy marketplace where everyone's advertising and everyone's sharing content. And, it's just the way we do life in 2023.
It's very diluted now, isn't it?
You just see less of
if it's
everything.
diluted.
I find the stat of 0.67% of your social media following will actually see your posts. And that was a statistic from last year. And I found that very confronting, considering so many of us spend so much time on Instagram and Facebook talking to our followers and putting out our offers and showing our work, to think that only 0.67% of your people actually see on average a post that you put out there is pretty confronting. So
you can't rely on social media. We have to diversify our marketing.
Yeah.
And so what sort of avenues have you diversified in your marketing, besides obviously social media, besides your website? Are you doing paid marketing?
I feel like over the years we've probably done everything that you could do. These days, partnerships, collaborations, joint ventures, I still think they're a really strong way of getting exposure and new clients. And we've done those since way back. I think that might have been the first little avenue of marketing that I experimented with. And they come in all shapes and sizes and forms. Competitions that you run either yourself or with other people can be really effective. Paid advertising is almost essential, I think. These days, even though Facebook ads, people can have a love-hate relationship with them, there is no other platform that's so affordable to advertise on. If you think about what it used to cost, and Jeremy will be able to attest to this because he used to do it, how much you used to have to pay to advertise in a magazine, back in the early 2000s, just to put an ad up,
or a little paragraph about yourself. Even now it's $500.
That's it. So you can
advertise
now. You can advertise on Facebook, for a month for less than $1,000, and that could reach thousands and thousands of people. And you can target your demographic and obviously your geographic location and all kinds of things. So it is, Facebook ads particularly, it's a really great platform. So we do use that a lot. We try really hard to keep in contact with our current audience, because of course the people that have already used you before and already have loyalty and trust to you are usually your best clients, and to remind people to come back as often as possible. So we're pretty proud of having quite a high return client rate. And I think that's an underutilized avenue that everyone has access to in their business.
And do you do that, Katie, through email marketing? When you say you regularly keep in touch with your previous clients, are you doing email marketing specifically, or are you doing it in a different way?
Yeah, email marketing is part of it, but you can't be too specific about it, because your audience might be following you in all sorts of different ways. They're not all on your Instagram. They're not all going to open your emails. Some of our clients unsubscribe from our email marketing, which is their right to do. You've got to try not to be offended by that and make sure that there are other ways that you can reach them. So sometimes we'll just do a text message out to people, letting them know of something new that we're doing within our business. And we might actually target specific clients, or we might do emails out through, rather than through a normal email marketing channel like MailChimp or whatever people are using. You can often just do it through your CRM as well, so that you can actually contact people in a way that they would expect to hear from you, rather than through a newsletter per se.
Yeah.
And then also, some of them who are following you on Instagram and other social media channels, it's good to reach them that way too, because you just don't know where they're going to pop up. And sometimes it's also just through their own friendship networks too. So we find that the more we run projects, for example, like Babies in Bonnets, the more we run projects that people get to know and expect, the more repeat clients we get coming into those too. So you sort of you can never forget about your return clients, because they can come in via any of your other marketing avenues, as well as specifically being asked by you.
A client coming back through who's obviously had the experience already knows the process. So there's an expectation that they'll require less work to bring them back through the process. And, based on the decisions that they made the previous time or the previous times, you can kind of rely on knowing that the client will be a good client again, as opposed to a new client that it's an unknown quantity.
And so when you get lots of return clients and say somebody's come back to you, their second or third child, are you rewarding them in any way for returning back to you, or are they receiving the same packages, keeping it standard so that they know what to expect?
Grace, the reward is in the work that we do.
Of course it is.
I have a very strong sense that people don't need to be incentivized to come back to you if they love what you do. They're going to come back to you because they trust you, because you took care of them and you gave them an amazing experience with an amazing end product that they still love and it's still on their walls. That's what brings them back.
Yes.
And I don't think that offering them, a free session or a discount is really going to make them much difference. If they're ready to come back, they'll come back. That said, sometimes they'll jump on a special too, because they get to know you. So we actually do a Black Friday sale every year, or we have done for a few years anyway. And often that gets sold out by previous clients, because they're like, we know how much these guys cost. We are definitely jumping in on this discount. Like, we know that we're going to spend money. So let's just get it done, buy the package, know that.
Yes.
But that does happen a lot. And it usually that our packages sell out because of those clients jumping in and getting them as quickly as they can, so they don't miss out. So yeah, of course they do. There is an incentive, I guess, in that, because they know us and they know that we're probably going to have a Black Friday sale. And so they might, if the timing's good, they might wait out for it.
And what other promotions do you have in your Heartstory business that have worked in the past that you've tried?
Our book projects are really successful. So we usually run one or two different book projects each year, and we've been doing that since the year that I had Augie. So Augie's actually turns 5 today, our youngest son. And so the year that he was born, I stepped out of the business for a while, and Jeremy ran our very first book project. And the reason why we chose to do a book project was because we could book it. We could be very specific about the types of photographs we wanted to take, and we wanted to fill the studio for him, because he would be on his own in the business for the majority of that year with an admin assistant helping us, our trustee Mel. So that was her first full year of working for us. And because of that, we just needed his life to be as simple as possible, because without me being there, it was this extra pressure. And so we set up a book project called For the Love of Children and Animals. And he photographed 65-ish families with their pets in the studio.
Oh, nice.
One of the key ingredients of doing that book as well, besides what Katie just said, was it gave us the opportunity to design, and this has kind of been the backbone of how we've been running our business. We could design the hours that we worked, because most of the time when we're photographing on location, we do it around the best time of day, and in daylight savings, as you know, that's pretty late in the evening. So we know, we've got a pretty good feel as to how many sessions a week we can do and comfortably do to make sure our business is running smoothly. And if we can do those within, let's say, business hours, as opposed to Saturday at 7:30 p.m, then that was a win, because I was missing out on that dad time with our newborn baby. So I had 2 weeks paternity leave that I took off out of the business. And then when I went back, it was full on, it was straight back into it. So yeah, one of the elements was designing the hours based around what our needs were as a family. Which kind of, there was a few elements, like Katie said, booking the studio out, because we just took rent on a new studio space. So we're like, let's fill that. But the flip side was designing the hours that suited our lives.
Okay, let's talk more into that. How do you design what your business looks like so that you avoid burnout, you book enough clients to, reach your revenue goals, and you're doing the work that you want to do? How do we design our business in that way?
Yeah, it's it feels like it's the most important thing. It's the foundation of everything. And often we don't do it first, and we should. If I was starting a business from scratch, I would be doing that first now with everything I know. But often we just jump in and we're like, cool, I'll do as many shoots as possible. Oh my God, this is amazing. Oh, money. Oh, bookings. And then you're like, oh my God, I feel like I'm dying. What have I done? And then you've got to slowly work backwards. And we have done that. Like, we made deliberate choices a few times. There was a very specific thing that happened, I think must have been around 2015, where we suddenly went, why are we working 6 days a week? Like, why are we doing this? Nobody else does this. We need to cut back to 5. And so we actually, we just squished our work tighter together. We did the same amount of work. We just did it in 5 days instead of 6. And I remember when we made the change that it seemed like this such a big deal, and we were so stressed about it and how it's going to work. And then once we'd made the change, we were like, oh, we should have done that 2 years earlier. Like, why did it take us so long? And we've made these changes a few times, to the point, we've done it again now, just in the last few months. We've made another change to cut our hours down. And we just believe really strongly in, as creatives running a business, that's two really big, being a creative person and running a business, those two things together are a big drain on your mental and emotional and physical capacity. And so it's really important that you don't work too hard, because otherwise you get to a point where you start to lose your mojo, you start to not feel as creative anymore. So there's that side of it. But then also there's the other side of it, which is just your capacity for stress, dealing with, potential challenging clients, things like, when your shoots get rescheduled because the weather's really bad. There are so many things that can kind of get in the way of just being your best self as a business owner. I'm a really strong believer in not working 40 hours a week, and I try really hard not to. Sometimes you have to, but the benefit of running your own business is that if you can control your life to the point where you're only maybe working 25 to 30 hours a week, when, things go wrong, for example, you have, a week of rain and it throws all your schedule out, or, you have a tech crisis, or whatever could pop up, a marketing campaign fails, something happens that's not in the plan, then you have the resources to be able to step in and do more work to fix it. Whereas if you're already working at capacity, 40 to 50 hours a week, something goes wrong, you are literally screwed. Like, you will probably have to push yourself into a space that you're not comfortable, compromise your boundaries, work too hard, get exhausted, possibly then end up sick. And a lot of us have been there, so we kind of know that it's not a place that you want to go. So so to get back to how you do it, honestly, it's just numbers. It's literally sitting down with, a spreadsheet or a pen and paper and a calculator, and working out where you need to be to earn the money that you need to earn to live the life that you want to live, and how long it takes to serve a client, so that you can work out how many clients you might need to see in that period of time that you're available to work, so you can make the money that you want. And then after that, it's about plotting it all into your schedule so that it works too. So it's not easy. Like, I'm not trying to make it sound easy at all. It is really hard, and it will keep changing. Like, we've changed it that many times over 15 years because life changes and your needs change, and you get older, you take on staff. There are lots of different reasons why it might change. So you do have to keep revisiting it. So it's not easy, but it's essential. It's like just...
Yes. Absolutely. And thanks for explaining that, because I think that will be quite helpful to people. So before you had staff, how does a portrait photography studio work where there is just two of you? Are you only fitting in, before you had your studio, let's say, when you're shooting on location, you have to work around the sun, you're doing some shoots in the morning, some shoots in the afternoon. What does that actually look like? How many can you fit in a day? And then how many days a week?
I'm trying to think back to what we would have done. I feel like it might have been about 150 to 200 shoots a year back before we had staff.
So is that more than 3 a day?
We would try and do as many in a day as we could.
But it depends on the days in the week, Grace.
Tell me how like your maximum you would fit in a day.
So I can do 12 shoots in a week, and I do them over 4 days.
Whoa. I
just don't think that it's a good idea to do a shoot every single day. one shoot a day. A lot of photographers do that.
Yeah.
But for me, that's like, I know this is different for everyone, but if I know a lot of people will relate to this. So I think about my shoot when I wake up in the morning. I've got a shoot tonight, I think about it. I think about it during the day. I check the time a million times. I check the weather. I'm preparing, then I'm getting myself ready for my shoot. Then I go off and do my shoot. Then I come home from my shoot and I've missed, a chunk of the day, especially in summer, it could be the best chunk of the day that you want to hang out with your family. If you have to do that every single day of the week, that has a big impact on your ability to live a comfortable, relaxed, fulfilling life. And yes, your work is part of that. You have to love your work, and most photographers do love their work. But for me, that's not an everyday thing. I want to do as many shoots as I can in 4 or 5 days, and then have the rest of that week or the rest of that fortnight to do other work that I need to do, or to take days off and enjoy my life. So for me and for Jeremy, obviously we've felt into this together. It's a mistake to spread out, say, for example, you could do 30 shoots in a month. It's a mistake to do one a day for a whole month. You're better off packing them into 1 or 2 weeks out of that month, as tightly as you can and within your ability. And then having downtime in between that you can focus on other things, because it is a big drain, especially portrait photography. It's a drain on all of your capacity, like your physical, your emotional, and your mental, because you're being creative, you're connecting with people, and you're physically working. So it's hard.
Yes.
And it's different for everyone. Obviously, when you're 25, maybe, it's a bit easier to work a solid 12 hours in a day. We're on the total other end of that scale now. We're in our late 40s. And so we do have less energy than we used to have. That said, I also think that if you're careful with your timing, you can do 3 or 4 or even 5 shoots in a day, as long as you give yourself adequate rest and you have set up your business so that you can be outside and inside at different times of the day. And that's what we've done. So we've orchestrated it so that we can basically do the most amount that's possible without burning ourselves out or hurting ourselves.
Sounds amazing. Jeremy, what have you got on that?
Yeah, I was just going to kind of hone in a little bit more on the concept of how we were managing our shoots. Up until this year, we were working every second weekend, the both of us. So when Toby was with us, we wouldn't work that weekend. When Toby was back with his dad, we would work. And we were fortunate that we had either our parents come and visit us to look after Augie and hang out with him, or we found a couple of really great minders that would come and hang out with him while we were out shooting. So that weekend that we were shooting, like Katie said, we would go for it. So I would do one at 8 in the morning. Katie would do a couple in the studio mid-morning and lunch. And then in the afternoon, we'd be both out doing 2 sessions. So in that day, we would knock over, 7 sessions?
I think we would do 14 in a weekend.
14 in a weekend.
That's pretty standard between us.
14 in one weekend was what we needed, like Katie was saying before, 1 a day. Like our business needs 1 client a day. That 14 every second weekend was about the average. So essentially we were shooting, I say essentially, it's not really the truth, because Katie would do sessions in the studio on every second Thursday or Friday. But we were shooting 4 solid days in a month. And what that gave us was a very structured way of running our business that meant that those are our shooting days. This is our culling day. This is our production day. These are the 2 days that we show clients their photos. There's a very structured way of running your business. And that may seem like a very scary prospect to someone starting up their business, in terms of, I can't tell people what my hours are because I just need to take whatever I can.
Yeah.
If you don't start that precedent from the very get-go, then what's going to happen is that you're going to be at your beck and call of your clients, and they're not going to respect you. And all of a sudden you're running this ridiculous race where you feel like you've got no control and no life. And before I met Katie, I can tell you from experience that when you run a business that's like that, you're very quickly going to hate being a photographer.
Yes.
The key to the way that we've been running our business now for at least 10 years, and it's always changing, like Katie said, like we made an adjustment a couple of months ago again, is that if you run that life of working too hard, you're going to hate being a photographer. It's going to be the thing that will die first, and you won't want to touch it. And I think the key with the way that we've been running our business successfully is, sure, it pays the bills and pays us our salary and gives us holidays. But what it does in return is it keeps us satisfied and happy with what we're doing. Like, I love shooting. I've been doing this for nearly 30 years and I love it more now than I ever have.
That's amazing.
I don't feel tired from shooting. Like, it gives me energy. Like, I love doing it.
That's what we all want to be saying, Jeremy.
Well, you can. I mean, if you follow a few basic principles and set your boundaries, clients will fall in line. Like, we don't do sales appointments on the weekends anymore.
Oh, really? You think that is when people need it the most?
You know what? The people that need it the most are the ones that will, careful what you say, Jeremy, careful what you say. They're going to be the ones that respect you. I'm saying this loosely. People who need weekend spots don't value your time as people who will take a weekday spot.
If you tell someone when you're available, that's what they can choose. You know, when we book a specialist or we go and we you know, I'm just trying to think of like another service that's not.
I think a specialist is a good example, Katie, because I was thinking exactly the same thing. I don't get to go and choose my child's specialist appointment on a weekend. I have to do it during the week and work around him.
Yeah. And it's not to say that this is obviously booking a family photographer is not an essential service, like, you know, like a medical professional that you might have to wait for 6 months to see, but it's still a service that only has a certain amount of availability and a certain amount of capacity. And it's not a free-for-all. Like, it's not a 10-minute car wash booking. It's like it's a boutique experience, which is going to take some time. It's going to have multiple appointments, multiple touch points, a process that you need to go through. And of course, the availability can't be unlimited. If we were running, you know, a chain of photography studios around the country and we had 10 photographers in each, you know, that would be different, because then you might have some people that work on weekends, but it's not, it's a boutique business. And even with support staff, you know, no one's working full time. None of our staff work full time. We all have lives. And, you know, even with that support staff and everyone having their own roles, there's still only a limited amount of clients that we can see each week. And even though it's growing, like we're growing our business this year from a capacity of 300 shoots a year to 400, which is a pretty big jump. But even though we're doing that, it's still 400 shoots. It's still roughly 36 a month. So, you know, that's still only 9 shoots, 9 appointments on average a week. And that's not an unlimited capacity. You can't just put them anywhere. They have to fall in line of your availability. And the best way of working I've found over the years is to time block. So this day for this day for this, like Jeremy mentioned before. It's really good for your focus as an individual. Like, today I'm doing editing. I don't need to worry about clients. I don't need to worry about, you know, interrupting myself for phone calls or a sales appointment that might take longer than I've scheduled or anything like that. You can just focus on what you need to do. So when Jeremy's doing sales appointments on Thursdays and Fridays, he literally just worries about that, and he doesn't have to think about other things, you know, for that day, because sometimes he might go straight from one appointment to another. You know, one might run over and the other one might turn up a bit early. You know, he's just trying to grab a coffee in between, let alone doing something else.
The key to this discussion is that if you don't respect your own time, how do you expect your clients to respect your time? And it was funny, I'm just going to do a little side note. I was filling out an application form yesterday for credit card, and I was looking for, you know how it was like, please select from the drop down your profession. And I was like, I scrolled through about 100. You know what's not in the list? Us.
Of course.
we're nothing to, and unfortunately, I think a lot of us as photographers maybe take that on a little bit and believe it a bit that, oh, we're not that important. We're not as important as, you know, a doctor or a specialist or, I don't know, a policeman. I mean, we're probably not, but if we don't believe that we're important and we have, our time is valuable, then what chance have our clients got of believing it as well?
Yeah, well said. Absolutely. And setting boundaries is so important, not only for our own health in our business as a CEO of our business, coordinating what we're doing in our business, but getting our clients to respect us, respecting ourselves as well. And do we have anything more to say around boundaries as far as what you will and won't do in your business?
Yeah, we don't do passport photos.
Oh, yeah, I used to do them. I used to do passport photos on a regular basis when I was at Defence.
I mean, if it fits in your business model and you can, you know, it takes you 5 minutes to go from one client to the next, then amazing. That's an amazing business model, but that doesn't work with the business model that we've built. We know the mechanics of what it takes to service a client and how much that costs our business to service that client. So we've set all the parameters that we can think of now. I mean, surely at some point there'll be somebody else, a client that like presents a new problem that we're like, oh, how did that one get through the gaps?
Yeah.
It's just another screw to tighten. And that's pretty much mostly what Katie does for our business is, she's very meticulous with all the detail, which is amazing. But if something goes wrong, rather than dwelling on it, it's like, right, how can that not happen again? And I think if you keep learning from your mistakes, then those mistakes won't keep happening. So passport photos doesn't fit our business model, so we don't take them. We had an inquiry this morning of someone that they had $100 cash for a photo of their iris.
Interesting. That's unique.
Very unique.
There's a couple of things that we don't do. Another one we don't do is cake smashes. And just to clarify that, and hopefully this is of help to any newer photographers or photographers that want to change their business, is that it starts with your intention. It starts with what you want and what you're passionate about. And you should never feel that you have to do a certain thing because that's the done thing. I don't do post newborn photography either because I just don't like it that much. I don't want to spend all that time patting a baby. Like, I love babies, but I want to see them awake. I want to see their mum and dad cuddle them. It gives me it makes me gooey. Like, I'm not that interested in arranging them, in a beautiful way and spending all that time to get that one perfect shot. It's just doesn't float my boat. So whilst I can totally respect and appreciate it in other photographers, it would be really inauthentic of me to decide that that's how I'm going to photograph newborns because that's what everyone does. Need to make choices in your business that really reflect your passions, who you are as a person, and the things that you love and make you excited, and make decisions around those in an intentional way so that as your business grows and as you learn more, you can stay true to who you are and you don't go down that path of like, oh my God, how did I get here? Like, I was doing this and suddenly I'm photographing, christenings and events and I don't even like them. That could easily happen to many photographers who say yes to everything. So with cake smashes, it's just not my thing. I have 2 children that have eating issues. I have allergies myself. And so for me, like, a cake smash is like, ew, mess, yeah. What if the baby gets a rash or they hate it or they cry? And it's just not my thing. I don't want to do that. So it doesn't mean I don't celebrate first birthdays, but I just have made a choice not to do that particular thing in my business. And I think it's important for everybody to think that through and not to just say, I'm a family photographer. That means I have to do pose newborns, I have to do cake smashes, I have to do extended family sessions. Because I know other photographers who said, oh, you guys do those extended family sessions with 30 people. Like, how do you do that? And it's fine. Like, we're used to it. We enjoy it and we know how to manage it. But I can totally understand how some photographers might go, no way, I'm not doing that. It's not my thing. I want people running in a field and tickling each other, So making those choices, that's another boundary. It's like saying, this is what I do, this is what I love, and the rest of it someone else can do that, not me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is really wise advice, Katie. And you've given us permission to choose how you want to run your business, what's in it, what's out of it. I used to hate doing group photos when I was a photographer at Defence. And I used to think, oh, why do people need so many group photos? I mean, I would do up to 300 people in a group and an organised group. And then when I started running my own business and people wanted to pay me hundreds of dollars to do a group, I was like, yes, I love groups suddenly. But to be fair, I also had to decide, right, what lights me up? I can let go of those sorts of things that I don't want to do, like groups and such, and create a business where you look forward to turning up and you're producing the work that lights you up, that you're going to be proud to show online and to new clients as well. Because you're right, we don't have to do everything. And even in the beginning, we might have to, just to sort of get an idea of what's going to float our boat. We have to try everything and experiment. But once we figure that out, set your boundaries, say no, pass the work on to other people. Because when you do that, the work that you truly want, it comes to you because there's space for it.
That's exactly right. As soon as you close the door, it gives you space to take something else.
Exactly. So when it comes to systems and processes, what sort of systems do you use as far as technical systems?
There's so many these days, hey, like it's you make a list of your subscriptions and it's a bit overwhelming at times.
Yes. And all the money that's going out to all the subscriptions.
Oh gosh, I remember doing an audit on it during it would have been either 2020 or 2021 when everyone was, going through the COVID, lockdowns and trying to save money. I remember doing a list of subscriptions and software and going, holy cow, there's so many. How did we get here? And now there's even more. We'd use Pixie Set for galleries. We've only been doing client galleries for a very short time. How long do you reckon it's been?
6 months.
Oh, it's not even a year.
So what do you mean? Explain that. What happened
Well,
before the gallery?
Well, the clients were getting USBs at the end of the production of their artwork. And then we got to that point where we were running out and I was like, well, we need to do something here. And the funny thing is that we bought a new computer and it doesn't have a traditional USB port.
We were like, this is the time to get rid of USBs.
Because we've been dabbling with Pixie Set for a few years. So we kind of dived into it during COVID thinking, well, this is a way for us to keep in touch with our clients. So we'll load up galleries from sessions that we shot and send them out specials. And so we've been toying with it in the background, but we hadn't really hit any success in terms of what we were trying to achieve. So it was just a back burner for a while, but we made a very conscious decision once it got to that point of, do we buy more USBs or do we just use this gallery system? And, we were paying for it. So we're like, well, let's just...
Definitely more. It's more affordable, right? Because it's about
so much more affordable.
$35 a month versus USBs cost about $7 or $8 each. And if we were doing 30 clients, $7 or $8 each, like that's a lot more expense in USBs that, people put in their drawer and lose or forget, or they don't back them up and then they message you like 2 years later and say, my USB is not working. So you have to give the photos to them again anyway. So it's actually good to have gotten rid of them now and just use galleries. But before that, we didn't have the need for galleries because people were ordering in person. So, if you supply a gallery, it's very hard to convince people to come and order in person if they can just do it online. So we like the in-person experience. So for now, galleries are only issued after their order has been produced. It's like an additional bonus service for the client where they can actually access their entire gallery from previous. They can't necessarily download it all because it depends on what they purchased from us, but they can certainly see their collection online forevermore.
Excellent. That's good to know.
What else? We use Tave for our studio management software.
I haven't heard of that. Tell me about it.
Tave is huge. It's been around for a long time, but it's not necessarily the favourite. A lot of people use Studio Ninja.
Yes.
I feel like with a CRM, once you start, especially when you're running a big business like ours, you don't want to change, So there have been many times over the years when we've gone, why does it not do this thing? And it's been frustrating, but it's sort of like, oh gosh, how would you change now? You've got this massive database in there. You've got all these automations set up. You've got gazillions of email templates, workflows, etc. So it'd be very hard to change. But then that said, it's sort of like I think back to buying a pram when I first became a mum. Like there's never a perfect one. You just have to make a list of the main things that you're looking for and find those things. And then you might also get some bonus things. You might also get some things you don't like very much and you just got to live with it and make the most of it. So
sounds like finding a bloke, Katie, if you ask me.
Love it, Grace. That's perfect.
You don't always get what you want. You get some bonuses that are joyful surprises.
So true. So Tave is a very powerful CRM. It does lots of reporting and statistics, which I absolutely love. And it has lots of automation capability as well, which is also great because it saves a lot of time in the business. So we have that. We also have Acuity that we use for scheduling. So we use that for clients booking in phone calls with us and also booking in their pickup times. We use the Google Suite for everything else, business administration wise.
We use Asana it's kind of like our sticky board of following clients from once they're in our system to pick up.
Production. It manages our production timeline.
So do you have Asana for every single client? They have their own little board inside Asana?
Well,
yes, they do. But once they've picked up and taken their artwork, then we just throw the card away. So there might be, 50 or 60 clients sitting in there at any one time.
Yep.
in one of the different sections.
Okay.
The client section in Asana is its own board, and each client has a card in that. But we use Asana for general task management for us, so not for client tasks, but for all the other things that you have to do in a business. So marketing, projects, operations in the studio, admin, bookkeeping, all that sort of stuff. So we all use Asana. We also have just recently started using Slack now that we have a team. And it's a really great way of sort of, sending each other things that we might questions, things we might need someone else to do, checking in on each other, giving updates. It's really great.
Yeah, without filling up the inbox.
Yes, we used to do a lot of it by text message, between our phones. Slack's great because everybody can kind of see in what each other are doing. And one of my favourite things about Slack at the moment is weekly updates. So we all jump in at the end of the week and we give it a little update of what we've been doing over the week. And it's really good for the team. It sort of brings us a bit closer together because we all know what each other's been responsible for, how our weeks have gone. There's a bit of personality in there. It's quite fun, and it makes you really feel like you're part of a team, regardless of whether you've been there every day or not. So that's really fun.
We obviously have a bookkeeping software, so we use Xero. But on the production side of things, we use Photo Mechanic for culling.
See, they do Lightroom.
Yes, we do. But because we're shooting on Z9 now, the files are just so massive that if we ingested all of those images into Lightroom, it would just slow the catalog down, because we have one master catalog that all of our clients are in.
One catalog per year?
Yes.
Yeah, same.
So we use Photo Mechanic to go through and, pick out the top quarter to top third, and then put them into a subfolder within the client, and then ingest that into Lightroom. And then I do my second round of culling. So I might pull in 150, 200. Actually, Katie shot an extended family session.
Oh, no, don't. How embarrassing.
It's not. It was amazing. She shot an extended family session, which was brilliant, by the way, because I culled that this morning. So she shot 1,000 frames.
Oh my God,
I culled that. I don't know why. I shot 1,600 on a session last week.
That's normal for you, though?
That is not normal. That is extraordinary. So I pulled in 300 out of that session into Lightroom, and then went through and did a secondary cull and got it down to 100. So Lightroom, so we use Photo Mechanic to Lightroom. Lightroom does, obviously we can do additional culling in there, as you know, our editing, and then we export them into a viewing folder at a lower res, and then I do the viewings on ProSelect.
Oh, yeah, ProSelect. Been around for years, yes.
So we use ProSelect to do frame designs, album designs, but they're just templates more than anything else. We don't use them to print from. So that's our sales tool, and then from there they go back. We take the job back to Lightroom, and then I use the flagging system to narrow it down to the images that they've purchased, and then Photoshop to do layouts and all that jazz. And I do all my printing out of Lightroom.
Yes.
We recently added a 44-inch printer to...
Have you?
Yes. Which is amazing. It's so amazing. It's a revolution.
Our printer died last year. Like it died a sudden death. It was either buy another one the same size or upgrade, and so we took the risk.
Well, you can do fine art prints. Are you going to outsource and do more fine art prints for other photographers?
We're working on that, Grace.
Okay, well, I know some people.
On the cards. I know some people.
It's definitely on the cards. I've done some of my back end numbers. I just need to tidy up a few loose ends in terms of that. But yes, we will be offering that. So this isn't a marketing ploy, and we didn't pre-discuss this.
No, we didn't. But I know a lot of people.
We do love printing, though.
But we do want to keep the printer going, because the way that our production schedule works, essentially we're only printing for half a day a week. That's it. So it's sitting there idle for the rest of the time.
Yes, with those printers, you've got to keep them going. That's how they thrive, is continual prints going through.
Yeah.
Let's now talk about numbers on shoots. So would you prefer to overshoot? Are we like teasing each other for overshooting? Is that what's going on?
That's what's going on.
We're really different to each other in how we shoot, how we do that. So I'm not an overshooter. I really, because I used to do all the editing.
Hang on, whoa. You weren't an overshooter.
Well, it's very rare, and that's why I'm embarrassed about doing 1,000 frames on that session, because that's so weird. But since we've upgraded to the Z9, there's something about shooting mirrorless where I just get a little bit trigger happy. So I've definitely increased the amount of frames that I shoot. So I've been on the Z9 for nearly 12 months. And yeah, I I don't ever even put it on whatever the setting is.
Motor drive, yeah.
I don't even do that. I used to do that more before, but I don't do that anymore. I dread to think what would happen if I did. But I don't know if it's something to do with the shutter, the actual sort of the feeling of pressing the shutter and it responding to you. It slows you down a little bit. Whereas on the Z9, there's not so much feedback, not so much audio. And so I wonder if that's why I do it. But Jeremy has always overshot, in my words. Full respect to him. He does an amazing job always. It's never spray and pray. It's not like that.
No.
But he does tend to shoot more than me. And we've always had that difference between how we shoot. Like I'll sometimes look at his when I was doing culling and editing and go, oh my God, like there's 800 frames. I'm going to die. But then I would only shoot like 300 or 400 on a similar session. So we tease each other a bit about it.
It's overwhelming actually when you overshoot. Sometimes I do it on an event, and especially on events, say a wedding or whatever. I don't shoot weddings anymore, but I feel like it's overwhelming when you come to your workstation, you look through your Lightroom or whatever you've got, and you just like have to do it over a couple of days because you can't make the decisions there and then and do final culls straight away because there's just too many. It's too much for your brain to handle.
Yeah, it is. And
less is more.
Luckily, Jeremy is very good at culling. He is very decisive, and I don't have to do that anymore. So now when we tease each other about this, it's very lighthearted, but it used to actually give me anxiety because I would look at the number of photos and go, oh my God. But now I don't do it anymore. So, which is best for us. This is one of those decisions that I'm talking about where you're like, this is what we need to do to make everyone happier.
Exactly. Those decisions are so important.
It's funny how Katie's numbers went up and mine went down.
So weird.
We swapped roles. It was amazing.
Doesn't make sense. So it's
like I was shooting 600, 700, 800 frames, and then all of a sudden I'm shooting 300 or 400. I'm like, who am I?
Even with the mirrorless, Jeremy?
Yeah, there was something about it that, like Katie, it shifted my brain, and it was, I don't know, maybe I was more decisive. I'm not sure.
It's weird. It doesn't make any sense to either of us, but anyway.
No, because you're very opposite, even with the same camera experience. Wow, that's interesting. Moving on to advice for photographers doing family portraits or people running their own portrait studio. What advice would you give photographers to help improve their photography business in the new year?
I think the thing to easily forget is the importance of what you're doing with the people on the job. Because at the end of the day, what a photograph is, so this is going to get really esoteric, and this is, I don't know, I can't help myself. At the end of the day, the thing that they hang on their wall should give them a feeling of love and joy and connection and a trigger to a time that felt something. And if you're not giving that to your clients, then maybe you need to start finding a way to do that, because that's essentially what we're doing.
Beautiful. Beautifully said.
Well, I'm going to be really practical in my advice, and that is to remember that you're running a business. You're not just a creative. Not that I think even just should be used in that sentence, but you are actually running a business, which means that you're selling a product and you're making money. That's what businesses do. And so in your journey of being a business owner, you're going to come up against a lot of challenges and a lot of amazing opportunities for growth for yourself personally as a business owner. And so it's really important to have support and help to do that. And there are not enough creatives and photographers out there who actually get that help. So get a business coach. Like, it's 100% one of the best moves that we ever made.
Agree.
It's just overlooked. I think it does come back a little bit to that idea that maybe we're not important enough, that we're maybe, we're artists, and artists don't necessarily have that position of power is not quite the right word, but the status that we have in society is not necessarily as high as some other professions, and so sometimes that doesn't help with our self-worth and the way that we regard ourselves. But remembering, bringing it back to the fact that you're running a business, and businesses are designed to sell product, to make money, that can help shift that mindset into, okay, I need to get help to do this, because you generally don't need help to be a good photographer. If you invest in your own creative vision and your time and you're intentional, you generally, that comes with time and experience. You become better and better and better the more you shoot. But when it comes to business, you can literally just stay stuck for years and years in the same place if you don't have the right kind of support to help you move forwards. And there's so much to learn. It's massive. It's way more than learning how to be a good photographer. Running a business is like, oh my God.
It's multi-leveled, isn't it?
It's huge. It
is
so huge. And if you really really go for it, it is the most amazing vehicle for personal growth and for life growth. For your whole entire family, the things that it can do for you in your life are phenomenal, but you can't do it on your own, working in a little void by yourself. Like, you really need support, and that comes in many, many shapes and sizes as well.
Absolutely. I second that with business coaches. I invested in one early on in the piece. I knew how to be a photographer for the past 20 years. I'd got that down pat and still growing, of course, but business side of things I didn't know. It's an investment. You could set yourself up in a couple of grand or 10 grand, depending how much you want to spend right from the start. But investing in a business coach is one of the best things you're going to do for yourself.
100%.
Well said. One last question. How do you keep your ideas fresh after being family portrait photographers for so many years? How do you keep doing new things?
Well, there are lots of ways. I think nurturing your creativity in general is really important. So it's not just about picking up the camera and, shooting families. It's actually about being creative in your whole life, having a creative approach towards other things so that you can keep that spark going. So it's shooting for yourself as well. It's personal work. Because often it's those things that you do personally with your camera in your own time that inform the way that you might shoot a family or whatever else your subjects are. So it's personal work. I couldn't, I could bang on about it for hours actually about how important it is, but it's the personal work that I've done outside of my business has been absolutely instrumental in keeping my creative spirit alive and always growing as well. But also, it's not just the camera, it's how you see the world around you. It's the other things that you do that are creative in your life. It's how you look at things. It's the experiences that you give yourself to just keep the juices flowing, because it's quite easy to become stagnant and stuck in that more masculine energy of running a business and, doing tasks and getting things done and focusing on numbers. So yeah, that would be my number one. And I'll wait till Jeremy answers just to see if there's a couple of things left over at the end, because I've got a couple of other quick ones.
Look, I think the way that I approach it is I try and pay attention to what the client is asking for. Sometimes they'll present something to you that's so outside of your normal realm of operating and locations that you might shoot, that it actually will present an idea of expanding the horizons of how you approach a session. So I've got a client who I'm photographing next Wednesday, and I think this will be their fourth session with us. And it sounds to me like she's kind of going down this avenue of theming each one of her shoots. It sounds like she's getting that idea tighter and tighter. She threw this, she wants to do something blue. So I had a discussion with her. I'm like, I was thinking about taking you here. And she's like, I forgot to mention blue's the theme for this one. I'm like, okay. Okay, well, that's a challenge. Anyway, we were at IKEA the other day. I'm like, holy shit, look at that blue wall. That is amazing. I may take her there. It depends on how brave they want to be. But I think if you pay attention to what the client is asking, and you can put yourself in an uncomfortable position of photographing in a location that you're not used to. And I thrive on that, by the way. Like I love going to a location that I've never been to before, that a client has requested because it may mean something to them, and then figuring out how to make that work. Like I don't mind that challenge at all. I had a client, the one that I overshot, like the biggest overshoot I've ever done, where I photographed them in the river 2 weeks ago. And they were keen for the river. And that has turned out to be one of my favorite things. I love water. I love being in water. I love being dangerously neck deep in water with a Z sign.
with a $10,000 camera equipment.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. But I think going outside of that normal comfortable zone, give the client something that they want, also gives me something. So there was a while there where I was kind of using the expression one for them, one for me. So
Yes.
most people, when they book you because, you're a family photographer. So they want to get a shot of the mum and dad with the two kids all looking at the camera, being happy and smiley. Great. That's what they think they want. But we'll give them that, but we'll also give them something that we think is a good interpretation of who they are. And I think psychologically it's really interesting seeing which decisions they make once they've had the experience and then they see the photographs based on where they thought they were going to go. So I think the creative for me comes through the clients and some of the decisions they make, and I try and let them lead that gives me creative energy. The creative stuff, I think, going back to what Katie was saying, outside of being a family photographer, I mean, there was a point there where we went overseas and we're in a remote location, and that was a trigger for me in terms of like reigniting to a new level my creative spark. But I find it now in the clients, and I find it in some of the decisions that they're trying to make about their session, because I want them to own it. They have to own it. They own it, they're more invested in it. And if I can reflect that back at them, it's a win. So that's where I get most of my creative flow.
Beautiful. I love that, Jeremy.
Thanks, Grace.
Katie, you want to say something?
The other little tips, I guess, that could be important for, for people who are looking to stay in touch with that, other than the ones we've already shared, is to really just bring the focus back to the things that you love all the time. So if you're ever feeling maybe a bit stagnant, or you've done too many of a shoot that you didn't really love, to come back to, what do I really love shooting and how can I make that happen in my business? I'm very proactive in the business in terms of new ideas. Like, I love to, if I feel like I want to do something that I wouldn't normally do, I'll find a way to make that happen. So that's where a lot of the book projects have come from. So the Babies in Bonnets project that we're now doing for the 4th time, like, that came just because I'm obsessive with babies. Like, I just freaking love them, and I could photograph them all day long. And at that point, when I first came up with it, we weren't getting enough of those types of shoots. And I was like, but I honestly couldn't think of anything more fun than sitting in a studio all day long and doing like 5 or 6 baby shoots all in a row with like a sitting up or a 1-year-old baby dressed in cute little clothes with a bonnet on their head. Like, how adorable. Yeah. And then bring the mum and dad in and they have cuddles and giggles, and it's all just so sweet and lovely, and it makes me feel really good. So for that reason, I'm like, this is what I love. So I want to do more of these shoots. So I'm going to find a way to make that happen in my business. And if I then got sick of it and I was like, look, I've had my fill of that now, then I would stop doing it and I'd move on to something else. And I think it's really important to just remember all the time that we have that power in our business. We have so much more power than we think. And so if there's an area that feels stagnant or you want more of, that you can actually do that yourself. And that's what keeps it alive. That's what keeps you original and doing, great work. And then the one last thing I want to add to that too is that critical side of photography. It's an art form, and yes, it's subjective, but if we put ourselves out there, in terms of awards or, being in groups, or communities where the striving for excellence is a part of that, and then we're analysing and critically looking at our own work, then there's always room to become better and to improve. And when you're around a lot of other creative people, there's this contagiousness of excellence, when you're either spending social time or professional time with other creatives. Like, you just can't help but be caught up in that. It's not about competition so much, in my opinion. It's actually about just being around it and being around that energy of, I want to be the best I can be. I want to push the boundaries. I want to explore what it really means to be this type of photographer, or try something that I haven't tried before and see where it goes. And that sort of slight risk taking and pushing outside of your comfort zone is where a lot of growth can happen. And that sparks creative energy as well, and keeps you fresh, and gives you the opportunity to do things that you ordinarily wouldn't do.
I absolutely love that, and I agree 100% as well with all those things you said. So that sounds like the perfect landing place to end our podcast. I want to say thank you so much to Jeremy and Katie for sharing all your insights into how you've built such a beautiful and successful portrait studio business in Canberra, and, you know, being so open with us, just willing to give everything to our audience. Really grateful, and we appreciate you. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. How can people follow you?
Thanks, Grace. They can follow us on Instagram, Heartstory Photography, Facebook. Look us up on Facebook. It's the same deal. And of course, our website. We've both got personal accounts on Instagram as well, which are linked from the main Heartstory Photography account. So, yeah, we're easy to find.
Awesome. Well, I encourage everyone to go out there and follow Heartstory. Take a look at their portfolio. You will be blown away by the beautiful, consistent quality and all the ideas that they use as well in their work. Yeah, take a look. You're going to learn a lot. And in this episode, I encourage you to listen to it a couple of times, because Katie and Jeremy gave a lot of tips that are useful for running your business. So take a second listen if you need to. Friends, don't forget to head to the show notes where you can find my photo comps mega list. Simply input your email address and the list is yours. But until next time, my friends, thanks for joining me on the Photo Diaries podcast, and I will catch you in the next episode. That's it for today's episode. If you found it valuable, I invite you to leave a review so more people can find this podcast, or simply subscribe to be notified when each new episode drops. Until next time, see you later.